The tactical display turned the nursery district into a map of murder. Blue lines marked walls. Red stains marked where bodies had fallen. And 12 heat signatures blinked on the screen, faint, weak, and fading fast. Commander Torven stared, without blinking. His kind of Kazani were built to hunt. 2 sets of eyes. Dense muscle. Claws. Made for finishing fights. Apex predators of the Andromeda sector, but the shapes on the ground below were not hunters. They were civilians, mothers, elders, small cubs. Torven's secondary eyes tracked the scene the way they tracked prey by pattern and motion, with the burn marks on the compound gates, the angled holes in the metal, the way blood sprayed across stone. His mind rebuilt the attack second by second, even while his stomach tightened with something he hated to feel. Helplessness. We expected raiders, Torven said, voice low. Slavers, resource thieves. His second officer, Lion, came up beside him. Lion's ears were flat, his tail dragged, a sign of deep unease in Kazani body language. This is worse, Lion murmured. You need to see the nursery. They moved through the compound in silence. Their boots crunched over broken glass and scorched earth. The air smelled like carbon and iron-burned metal and spilled blood. Inside the main corridor, Torven saw bodies arranged like a warning. Some lay face down. Some had their arms spread wide, as if they had tried to cover others. The walls were tattooed with bullet impacts. Too many, too fast. A massacre, not a battle. Then they reached the nursery doorway and Torven stopped. A human lay there, half inside, half outside, like a living barricade that had refused to move. Her name tag was still clipped to her shirt. Lee Carroll. She wasn't fully dead yet, but the border between life and death was thin, and she was slipping through it. Behind her, 6 Kazani cubs huddled together, pressed into a corner like frightened shadows. Their fur was matted with blood. Hers. Their eyes were huge. Their small bodies trembled, but they did not run. They did not cry out. They stayed close to her back, as if her broken body was still the safest place in the universe. Torven's medical scanner activated on reflex. Numbers appeared in cold, uncaring text. .47 bullet wounds, 17 through and through, 30D penetration. Torven's jaw tightened. His claws flexed once, hard enough to scrape the floor. She's still alive, he asked, even though the answer was obvious. Barely, Lion said, voice rough. She held them here. Torven knelt beside the human. Her skin was pale, her lips cracked, and blood soaked the floor around her like a dark pool. Yet her eyes were open, brown, sharp, defiant. Even now she looked like someone who refused to accept defeat. Her hand small, fragile compared to Kazani claw, still gripped a rifle. Not a human rifle. Raider-made, heavy, too big for her frame. She had taken it anyway. Torven looked down. The corridor, where are the attackers? Dead, Lion said. Torven raised his head slowly. All of them. Lion nodded. She killed 14 before they reached this doorway. Used their own weapons. No military history. No combat training on record. Torven's throat felt tight. Then what was she? Lion swallowed. A xenobiologist, predator behavior specialist. She studied Kazani cub development. Torven's eyes shifted to the cubs again. One of them had a small braid in its fur, something a human might do while grooming. Another cub had bits of Lee's hair caught between its claws, like it had been trying to clean her the way Kazani pack members cleaned each other after sleep. The cubs had claimed her as pack. She wasn't one of us, Torven whispered. Not even our species. No, Lion agreed. She was human. The word hung in the air, heavy and strange. Torven had fought beside humans in the Confederation Wars. He had seen their warships burn through fleets. He had watched human soldiers sprint through plasma fire with screams that sounded like joy and rage mixed together. The galaxy had a name for them, half fear, half respect. Death Rulers, a species born on a planet that tried to kill them with storms, toxins, predators, and gravity. A species that learned pain could be ignored when something mattered more. But Lee Carroll was not a soldier. She was a scientist, a researcher, someone who probably spent her days measuring teeth, logging growth, recording how cubs played and learned and bonded. Someone who should have been running when bullets started flying. Instead, she had chosen to become a war. It doesn't make sense, Torven muttered. Not tactically. Lion glanced at the scanner again. Not evolutionarily either. Torven forced himself to breathe. How long did she last? The medical officer checked timestamps and biological markers based on clotting, cell decay, and core temperature. She fought for 47 minutes after the first wound. Continued firing for 32 minutes after what should have been a fatal chest shot. 47 minutes. Torvan's ears twitched sharply. His mind calculated arrival times automatically. They could have been here in 30 minutes if the beacon had been flagged instantly, if someone had not demanded verification. Codes, if someone had not insisted on paperwork while people bled. Torvan's claws dug into the floor. 17 minutes, he said, voice turning flat. Lion didn't argue. He didn't need to. 17 minutes of delay. 17 minutes of bureaucracy. 17 minutes where Lee Carroll died slowly, piece by piece, while refusing to let the cubs die first. Torven stood. His grief sent hot, sharp musk filled the corridor. Evacuate the cubs, he ordered. Medical care. Psychological care. Full protection. Yes, Commander. Torven looked down at Lee Carroll one last time. Her eyes were still open. He's still fighting. Full honors for the human, he said. The Confederation can request her body, but the record must say the truth. Lion hesitated. Commander, she died protecting Kazani Young, Torven snapped. His voice cracked like a whip. She earned a warrior's place. A packed place. Lion closed his mouth. Torven added, quieter now. When the cubs come of age, they will light her fire themselves. That night, in his quarters, Torven watched the security footage. The recording began at dawn. Lee was in the nursery feeding the cubs. She laughed when they shoved each other for food scraps. Her laugh was bright and light, nothing like a Kazani rumble. The cubs circled her feet like she belonged there. Then the first shot hit. Lee jerked. Blood sprang from her shoulder. She didn't scream, she didn't freeze. She pushed the cubs behind her instantly, no hesitation, no calculation. Pure, fast instinct. The footage showed her grabbing a fallen weapon, firing, dropping one radar, taking another weapon, firing again. She moved like someone who refused to accept the idea that she could lose. She got shot again, and again she fell, then crawled back up, dragging herself into the doorway like the doorway was a promise she would not break. At minute 32, her legs stopped working. She propped herself against the frame and kept firing anyway. Breathing hard, face pale, eyes burning. At minute 45, the rifle clicked empty. A raider stepped forward, weapon raised. Lee didn't run. She didn't beg. She threw herself backward, covering the cubs with her body one final time. 7 shots slammed into her back then. Torven's elite guard arrived and wiped out the last raiders in seconds. Too late. Always too late. Torven replayed the final seconds until his eyes ached. Lee lifted her head. She looked directly into the camera, like she knew someone would watch this later. Blood coated her teeth, and she smiled, not sweet, not gentle, but fierce. A triumph smile. Save them, she whispered, then softer, almost like a joke. You're too late. But I saved them as she died. The cubs lived. All 6. They grew into warriors, each one adding Lee to their pack name as a mark of honor. The youngest, Kira Lee, later became a Confederation ambassador, strong, stubborn, and brave. She spoke with the same hard truth her protector had lived by. Torven never forgave himself. He kept one photo in his quarters, Lee laughing with the cubs, before the bullets, before the doorway became her battlefield. Beside the photo, a small candle burned day and night, a fire that never went out. 17 minutes haunted him, 17 minutes between duty and disaster. But in those 17 minutes, a human scientist, without armor, without training, without any logical reason, proved something the galaxy would learn again and again. Humans didn't protect others because they shed blood. They protected because they were human. And that made all the difference.